Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. Of course, taped live at the Twitch, twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. If you haven't seen our AEW Double or Nothing review, it is available right now on the YouTube and wherever podcasts can be found. So be sure to check that out. Get our thoughts on the big AEW show from this weekend. We've got a lot of news, some follow-up, some fallout, if you will, about Double or Nothing, specifically some MJF stuff, some notes on the big media scrum, the incredibly long media scrum.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Tony Khan talked for a long time.
Yes.
About a lot of topics. We're going to talk about that, some of that here in just a bit. Also, we're going to review Friday night's Smackdown and probably Friday night's Rampage as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's in the notes here.
All right.
I got some notes on it.
And then we're also going to talk about, there's actually a beefy Raw preview for tonight,
is.
Larson, now that we're back on, we're on the road to Hell in a Cell. It's coming up this coming weekend, I believe, right?
That's correct. On Sunday?
Yeah, it is Sunday. It is Sunday, yeah. So, of course, we're going to be doing our live reactions to that. So that's going to be going down on the Twitch. But first, let's talk about MJF. He was the main topic of conversation over the weekend after he no-showed a meet and greet, evidently booked a plane flight out of Las Vegas, didn't get on the plane, did in fact show up at Double or Nothing for the obligatory 10 power bombs he took from Wardlow and was stretchered off. So now the question becomes, what next? We might have some answers, at least in the short term, Larson. What's going on?
Yeah. So we talked about this briefly on our Double or Nothing recap, but shortly after Double or Nothing concluded, Fife Sean Ross Sapp tweeted, quote, MJF claimed to us that he showed up shortly before his match, left right after, and has a lot to think about. Sean continues, I haven't been able to verify this with other people at the show or if this was planned / approved / suggested by AEW. Tony Khan, naturally, was asked about MJF during the post-pay-per-view media scrum. And Tony Khan's response was, these transcripts are from Wrestling Observer, quote, I'm not going to comment on that. Got a lot of stuff from the pay-per-view that I can comment on, but I'm not going to comment on that. Finally, PW Insider confirmed Sean Ross Sapp's report, stating that, quote, MJF arrived at the venue for the pay-per-view tonight as what was described to PW Insider at the last minute and left the venue right after his match. And they added that, quote, the expectation is that he will not be on the road at least for the next several TV tapings, possibly longer. Seemed pretty obvious based on the 10 power bombs, him getting stretchered out, him getting the oxygen mask over his nose and eyes, that he was being written off. It was that he is being written off for a period. You would think, though we have no confirmation of this, obviously, for MJF to go and do the thinking that he says he needs to do, to see if there's a way for him and Tony Khan to work out something that can make both parties happy, and then move forward from there, or in the event that they come to the table and can't come to that agreement, decide what's next for MJF's AEW future.
He's 26 years old.
Yep.
I didn't have nearly the level of maturity to have a career the way he has had by the time he's 26. There's still a lot you don't know, sort of, I don't know, generally speaking, anecdotally speaking, having known a lot of people in my 43 years. At 26, you ain't got it all figured out. He's got some big decisions to make. And, I hope that the guy is able to figure it out. I love to see him on TV. Mentally, hopefully he gets to a good place. And yeah, I mean, I'm really happy, even though the match did seem, he did the character work that was necessary to do the job, to get the job done. The match did seem a little uninspired.
It seemed very basic. It seemed like, let's just come in here, let's get done what we need to get done to get Wardlow his win, have him hit those 10 power bombs, and let's move on with it. Even having it to kick off the show, just felt like, all right, let's come in and let's just get it done.
Yeah,
and then we can move on. If that match had happened later in the show, it also would have, cast a bit of a dark cloud over the entire thing. Will MJF show up?
Yeah.
Because throughout the day, there weren't any reports of him being seen backstage at the building. And, I'm sure Tony Khan didn't want that kind of lingering over the show as it was supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So have the match first, have him come, do his thing, have him leave, let him go get some time to himself, think about his future. And, maybe sometime soon him and Tony Khan can sit down and work things out.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'd like to hope doesn't happen is the kind of thing that CM Punk would talk about with Vince, where it'd be, 2 weeks later, you ready to come back, pal? Tony seems like he's willing to give his people the time they need to go do what they want. We've seen this before. I mean, there's according to Sean Ross Sapp anyways, there was some debate as to exactly what Cody had left on his contract. If there was an option that could have been picked up, regardless, Tony Khan let him go. And, we've seen this with Kylie Ray 2 years ago or whatever. She had signed to AEW and she needed to get herself right. And he says, that's fine, go. And so he seems like the kind of guy who, if his wrestlers don't want to be there, if they find themselves mentally in a place where they need to get away, seemingly he's cool with that. And that's good.
That is.
You don't want, people burning out on the job. We've seen what that looks like before. And so yeah, hopefully he is able to figure out how to approach it. MJF is able to figure out, okay, well, this is my situation. How can I approach this in a way that, will keep me healthy and keep me happy and make everybody, okay with what they're doing from both a personal and a business standpoint.
Yep.
So yeah, best of luck to everybody involved in that situation.
Definitely.
Love to see MJF back on my TV, but only in as much as he's healthy doing it.
Exactly. We were just talking about last night's post Double or Nothing media scrum. As you mentioned to kick off the show, Tony Khan talked a lot and even more. So in one instance, he kind of went off when he was asked to respond to Eric Bischoff's statement that CM Punk was the, quote, biggest financial flop in the history of wrestling. This is what he had to say. These transcripts come from Wrestling Observer. Tony Khan said, quote, that's a shit opinion. It's the most bullshit opinion I've ever heard.
That's fucking bullshit.
That's effing BS. There's only one person that can attest to that. I don't know what other people. I can only attest to what's happened here in the public record. Some of these things are a matter of public record. We do have over the years a good amount of financial data in pro wrestling. I can tell you no one wrestler has ever come in and made a bigger plus delta financial difference in the history of my company. Talking about Punk. I don't know what plus delta means.
Oh, man. You don't know what the plus delta is?
No, inform me.
Well, I'm the plus delta of the team.
It just sounds like you're putting yourself over without answering my question. So that's of no help to me.
There's the plus delta, and then there's Larson, the negative Larson.
I've had Big Red for 4 months now. Shouldn't that make me the plus delta?
That doesn't factor into the plus delta here at the channel, Larson.
I don't know, man. A strong champion headline the show definitely makes for a quality plus delta. You know, plus delta. He continues. This is the third anniversary this week.
Did you notice? Did you know? By the way, shout out to the Eagle Eye viewers out there. So yesterday in the Double or Nothing overlay that I made on MJF, I put a little plane ticket in his hand, I think it was, and a couple of our eagle-eyed viewers on YouTube. See, that's what brings the plus delta, Larson. Zondo says Larson's the negative ligma. Who in AEW is the negative ligma, Larson? Is it the Pillmans?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyways,
I don't know.
Anyway,
so Tony Khan continues. This is the third year anniversary this week, going into year 4. No one person has ever made a more positive impact. We just did a record pay-per-view buy. Every pay-per-view, he's done a 4 pay-per-view cycle now. Every one of them was the record, whether it was All Out, where he was a huge part of the draw with Darby Allin. His debut, of course, was a huge thing with the first dance. The biggest Rampage draw in the history of that show. The matches. He carried the Friday Night War, which, by the way, is a matter of record in fucking court in the state of California that we won the Friday Night War. Just ask Jerry McDevitt because he effing wrote it. This guy, Punk, won it versus Matt Sydal, who's a great wrestler. He had another great match on Friday night. He talks more. He says, Punk, he did it on the Friday Night War. He did the first dance. He's done the record Double or Nothing. He did the record All Out in his debut. He was part of a record Full Gear at a great match with Eddie Kingston. He's wrestled a bunch of effing young guys and a bunch of veterans in between there. Will Hobbs, Daniel Garcia. Goddamn. Then he showed up and did the biggest program in terms of everything TV buys ever with MJF. And then he did the goddamn main event here. He's the biggest part of the financial success in the history of this company. Let's effing go. Obviously,
Punk
Tony
started
Khan
saying, let's fucking go.
Yeah. So obviously, Tony Khan was fired up here. And,
yeah, man.
you know, like Bischoff, we talked about his initial comments, several weeks back. And he's very focused on seemingly one number, ratings.
Yeah.
That's Bischoff's go-to. And I'm not saying ratings don't matter, because they do. Mm-hmm. But it's not the only thing that matters. Today, when entertainment is consumed in a vastly different way than it was 20-some years ago, mm-hmm. you can't just look at raw number of viewership and think that's the only metrics that you have to consider.
Yeah.
You got social media engagement, YouTube numbers, and obviously pay-per-view buys are a huge part of it too. And I guess that the idea is, since Punk signed, there's been, do the sound for me too, Steve.
Shit.
That.
My whistle's not wet.
That upward trajectory.
Yeah.
And the numbers that AEW and their broadcast partners value most, as opposed to kind of middling numbers. And if the fulcrum of that is Punk signing on, and after Punk signs on, you see that,
yeah,
then it's been a success for AEW.
Yeah, no, I know. Look, man, it's silliness. I don't know. Look, if Eric Bischoff knew so much about TV, he'd probably still be in TV and not doing a I heard an ad for, like, I guess his latest podcast, and it's like, it's so anti. It's like, if you don't want the fanboy perspective, the perspective of the people who don't know anything, if you want the real business intelligence in this thing, listen to this podcast. And I'm like, that actually sounds kind of boring. Like, the minutia of the business numbers of wrestling. Like, if it's broken, it's like, look, I get it. I understand. You got a bit of experience a lot of experience in pro wrestling business back then. It's like, I don't know where does Bischoff actively work as an executive in TV in 2022? I don't think he does. And there are so many, and you and I have seen it, we've talked about it, and we tweeted about it sometimes. There are so many, as CM Punk likes to call them, old head, bad faith opinions, that I think that philosophically some of what Eric Bischoff says has some amount of validity to it. When he talked about, hey, you should, like, philosophically, I agree, you should try to capture some either lapsed fans or casual wrestling fans. I don't think you should do it at the cost of your hardcore fan, but I think that you should be trying to capture, like, just philosophically, definitely. I think that's a good idea.
You should always be trying to expand your audience. Yeah.
But the idea that he knows better than a guy like Tony Khan, who clearly has built something big out of nothing. I don't know what his TV deal is going to be like in 2024 or whenever that comes up, but it's probably going to be significantly bigger than what he has now.
Yep.
And it's silliness. Like, look, I appreciate what Eric Bischoff contributed to wrestling. I can objectively go back and say, hey, I think there was some cool stuff that he added to the thing, adding the luchadors there and taking a lot of ideas from ECW and putting them on cable TV. That was a cool idea. Stealing the NWO from Japan. That was a cool idea. When you're inspired by other things, whether you want to refer to as homage or inspiration or stealing or whatever, and you can put it all together in a package that people appreciate and really like I did back in the day with WCW, I think that's, that's a valid contribution. But to sit there with your old ways and criticize and say, well, the viewership is blah, 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 not understanding that the landscape is simply different these days.
Yep.
Like, the fact that they get 950,000 or whatever in total overall viewership doesn't take into account whatever, the DVR stuff, the +3, the +7. It doesn't take into account how shit is handled or consumed digitally through the various streaming apps, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that when Tony Khan talks about what CM Punk has brought to the company, I see it. You know, it's when you think about what Danielson brings, when Mox brought at the beginning, what Jericho brought at the beginning, when he brings in these names who already have value, and he's able to capitalize on them and use them to what amounts to their fullest potential, I think that, yes, of course, it's going to make a massive difference to his company, and he knows better than anybody else. He knows what the plus delta is, Larson.
Oh, I looked up the plus delta. This is what I found. A definition: a plus delta evaluation is a formative evaluation process
that provides feedback on an experience or event. How come we're going to do it together?
Oh, or event and collects ideas for future improvements. It is framed in improvement language rather than language that might be experienced negatively. The plus identifies what went well. What went well.
Drayville had it in chat here.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fine. Technical speak. There's probably a lot of that technical jargon that I've never heard of, and I'll probably never hear again unless Tony Khan says it.
All sorts of technical stuff. Exactly.
You got that right. Exactly. So I think, look, Tony Khan knows better than anybody else how his business is going, and I don't think he would be as hyped up as he was last night if things weren't going pretty well for AEW.
He said several times over the last week that he's had a really good meeting with the new regime in charge over at Warner Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's gotten good feedback from his broadcast partners and feels secure about his future with the Warner Discovery family of networks, that's going to give him hope, I would think, and optimism for the next TV deal being far greater than this one. And once that happens, then, there's been all this talk about in terms of talent, he's got a budget for that.
Mm-hmm.
And if the next TV deal is significantly larger, well, obviously that potentially leads to a larger budget for talent, and we can see people getting raises. And if they're really happy about the performance of AEW, we see a much larger marketing push, especially now that Punk, a name that casual and lapsed fans are familiar with, is champion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world, man. And it's like, you can try to deny it and say, and look, we've had plenty of views here on Going In Raw and downloads, criticizing AEW for things that we feel warrant criticism. But Bischoff is a guy with a name and a history, and that carries a lot of weight. But there's also sort of like I've been there and I know better aspect to that. And I think that's probably what gets under the skin a little bit. It's like, you've been there 30 years ago, and this is a completely different day and age.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's a bunch of silliness, but I don't know. It's cool. Even Lucha Blog, it was like, I had a hard time sleeping last night. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And like Lucha Blog was tweeted something about, Tony Khan's, got a second win after midnight. And Tony Khan responded to Lucha Blog and said, "These are my peak performance hours, my peak creative performance hours," or something like that. He's like, "I really love your Twitter feed, though. You've taught me so much about lucha wrestling." Tony Khan just going through his Twitter. And I'm like, man, at 1 o'clock in the morning is his peak. 1 o'clock, I mean, Vegas time. Who knows what that means for, what is he up at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, who knows?
4 o'clock in the morning, Jacksonville time as his peak. That's my peak teep hours. Right there.
Me too. Ideally, the only thing I'm thinking about, or it's going on my brain, are dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing but.
Yeah, man. Creative dreams.
Exactly.
So anyways, so now that we've talked about AEW paying their bills, Larson, why don't we talk about us paying our bills?
Sure. Let's take a quick break here to get a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp Online Therapy. Steve, life can be overwhelming at times. It's easy to feel burned out without realizing it. And while burnout is often associated with work, any of life's roles can lead to burnout.
That's true, man. So if you're feeling fatigued, irritable, or unmotivated, you could be dealing with burnout. And BetterHelp wants to remind you to prioritize yourself. And talking to someone can help you find out what's causing the stress in your life.
Yeah, I've been there before. I've felt that fatigue, that lack of motivation, that irritability that comes with burnout. And I've gone through the process of trying to find a therapist, so I know how difficult it can be to find the right person to talk to. But BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
It's also much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. And right now, Going In Raw listeners can get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/raw. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw. And before we get back to the show, let's get a word in from our sponsor, Chime. Hey, Larson.
Yes, Steve.
You know me, man. I don't like to wait for stuff. I don't like waiting for my food to show up. I don't like waiting for our videos to upload. And I really don't like waiting to get paid, especially when I've got bills due, man.
Yeah, Steve, I understand that. Waiting is no fun. But I have some good news for you. With Chime, you can get your paycheck up to 2 days. 2 days early with direct deposit. That's 2 more days. Save or pay bills. And while getting paid early is wonderful, it's quite great. There's a lot more to Chime. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and Chime even offers an optional savings account.
That does sound quite great. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes and does not affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/raw. That's chime.com/raw.
Banking services and debit card provided by Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank, NA, members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on payer.
All right, man. Excuse me. Let's talk about Smackdown. There's a WWE out there. I know that might be difficult for people to believe after this weekend. It's all AEW, but no.
And all AEW. Don't worry, WWE will dominate the news this upcoming weekend because they got a loaded Hell in a Cell card that I think there's 3 matches announced so far.
Yeah. What is it? It's Lashley and
Amos. There's Seth and Cody, and then Becky, Asuka,
and Bianca. Yeah.
It's all been announced so far, unless I'm missing something. It's entirely possible.
Hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever punched a clock?
You mean, yeah, I have.
We were asked that in the comments of our YouTube channel. Somebody said, yeah, I'd be upset if new people came in and made a lot more money than me. You guys are out of touch. When's the last time you punched a clock?
I mean, it was right out of high school.
Was it like a literal clock? Like not like the punch thing.
The clock, you had to clock in and clock out.
What did you have a card? That?
Yeah, there's a card. It wasn't okay. But it was like a scan card. Yeah.
I did that once. It was a job that I had for literally a day because I went through training and I hated it.
Yeah.
But I remember having punched a clock, and I've logged in, I've signed into like a little phone thing before, but I was like, punch a clock.
The first job I had out of high school, it was. Yeah, you had to clock in and out.
It was.
I've had to fill out time cards and stuff before.
Yeah, I've had to do that. Yeah, it was one of the funnier comments I'd seen lately. So you guys are out of touch. When's the last time you punched a clock? I'm like, thankfully, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Anyways,
the last time I punched a clock was the last time Eric Bischoff was relevant.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. P. Lord says Steve's one day as a coal miner. Oh, that's too funny. Anyways, Smackdown. I watched this on late Friday night because I was on the True Heel Heat podcast because they talked about it the next day. I was like, oh boy, I got to like refer. Was SmackDown good? Can you remind me? Oh, the Kevin Owens show was really good.
That was a lot of fun, and they got the wheels in motion of this continuation of Riddle's story with Bloodline. And depending how they play it, there's a lot of ifs here about this Orton injury situation. They commented on it during the show on Friday that he's going to see some specialists, orthopedists. I think they said a neurologist or a neurosurgeon to determine a treatment plan, whether he's going to need surgery. So during the show, Nakamura said, I have a new tag partner, or I have a tag partner, and he wanted to fight you Usos by himself. But I was like, no, let's do it together. And of course the Usos was like, oh, it's Boogs. Then we hurt him. And Nakamura says, nah, it's Riddle. And so during an interview later on, Riddle says this was Orton's idea.
Yeah.
For him to join forces with Nakamura, which I don't know. But if, say, Orton comes back later this fall, and assuming that Riddle's has had some measure of success teaming with Nakamura, that can be a source of tension between the two of them. where Orton says, "You moved on so quickly from your best friend, your mentor, to go after your vengeance. I don't really care for that. Now I'm going to RKO you."
Yeah, I kind of feel like, I don't know. Yeah, that could be if Riddle and Nakamura become a thing. I get the feeling, like, my read on it is Riddle is now just Bloodline Hunter, and so he'll just show up and align with anybody who's got the same agenda as him. So I don't know if this is going to be, I mean, I know they're going to have a match. They're going to lose against the Usos. But I don't know if Riddle and Nakamura are going to be a thing. I feel like Nakamura is more just sort of a means to an end for Riddle. He's like, I just want to get these guys, and who else has beef with them? You? Okay, cool. Let's team up.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah. Look, I think that Orton and Riddle feud is going to happen probably in the lead up to Mania next year. And like you said, if he comes back, in the early fall or something, that's that sort of lines up with that to get that started. But yeah, no, because I think also it would benefit Riddle a lot if you don't immediately sort of put him on a regular basis with another guy, because we've seen that already, and I think this needs to be the launching pad for his solo gig.
Definitely. Agreed. Yeah.
And I hope that that's not the case, although knowing WWE, they're going to take it week by week, and Riddle and Nakamura might end up having really good chemistry, and they'll just keep it going. And that could be WWE. But I don't know. When it comes to Bloodline, I get the feeling that Heyman's sort of, got his hands in it, and he's going to – I think Riddle might be helped by having a feud with the Bloodline, because I think it won't be just spinning wheels a lot, because they're actually telling a bit of a story there.
Yeah.
I loved the Kevin Owens show with Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
I thought it was so wonderfully done. Their chemistry, as always, is impeccable. And my heart broke a little bit when Kevin Owens says, "Where's your bloodline? Go ahead. I'll introduce the bloodline. Where are they? Here's the bloodline." And the look on Sammy's face.
Oh, he was crushed.
Was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And then later on, when he's like, "Hey, can I be, like an associate, an honorary member?" And Jay wanted nothing to do with that. And Jimmy was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Whatever. You could be, just knowing we all know that they're just doing that to use him. That there is no affiliation there. It's simply when we need a sack of shit to take a pin, when we need a fall guy, a patsy, whatever, you're that guy." And we can all see it. And it's like, this could lead to, I would love to see this lead to a face Sammy taking on Roman Reigns. And of course, losing, but that crowd would be huge for Sammy.
Oh, yeah.
Massive for him if they pull this off.
And it's interesting kind of dynamic now with Jimmy being the one that's kind of employing Roman's kind of bag of tricks in terms of manipulating people to achieve whatever goals Bloodline has, rather than Jay.
Yeah.
Jimmy early on was like kind of, I'm in, but I'm not. I'm in to get my brother out. Well, now I'm in because we're successful. Now I'm just in, It's been a process with Jimmy, and they've taken their time with it. It's been pretty solid.
This was such a great moment. Anstron here reminds me in the chat, Sammy calling Kevin Oos was hilarious. Oh, that was amazing. That whole segment was absolutely fantastic. I like the stuff here. Obviously, we're on the road to Gunther becoming Intercontinental Champion. So we had a tag match where Marcel Bartel took on most of the load in that match, which was kind of interesting. And got the pin. That's right. Yeah.
Which is good, because I was worried they were just going to kind of have him be Gunther's mouthpiece, if you will.
Yeah, I know.
Because Marcel Bartel is a fantastic wrestler in his own right.
He really is. Yeah.
And so it would be kind of a bummer just to have him do the talking for Walter. And not have him wrestle, but thankfully this looks like they're going to have him wrestle as well, and that's fantastic, because I think them as a team, and then of course individually, could do some really good stuff on SmackDown.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and just dive into it. We're gonna. I'm not saying we're gonna speed run this, but we're gonna go through it. So the Usos come out. They drop a promo where they do the thing where they say, "Hey, we've been here a long time. We couldn't do it without we got everybody here to thank." And then of course they say, "We couldn't do it with that, and we owe our success to nobody, just to ourselves. None of you. You guys all suck." It was kind of a hokey promo, to be honest with you. I felt like they really had something with that crowd because they eventually got the crowd to start chanting, Uso, Uso.
Yeah.
And then they did the
thing. They're like,
hey,
we've been here 12 years. We've had ups and downs. We won titles. We've been successful. We've been on the road, been away from our families. People who have always been there for us has been you, the fans.
Yeah, right. And then they just turn on everybody.
They do.
So, anyways, so they do that, and then that brings out, like you said, Nakamura. He says, "My partner and you, and me and my partner challenge you guys to a match for the tag titles." And I'm like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Who, Boogs?" And he's like, "No, it's this guy, Riddle." So Riddle and Nakamura get on the apron. They brawl with the Usos. They fight them off. Riddle gets back in the ring. The Usos double team him, fling him out of the ring. Nakamura gets in, and he gets double teamed as well. And then Riddle hits the Usos with a floating bro. They end up fleeing. So Riddle and Nakamura stand tall.
They do. Then we are going to have, we're supposed to have Raquel Rodriguez versus Ronda Rousey. After Raquel makes her entrance, we cut backstage in the women's locker room, and Shotzi's there with Aaliyah, Xia Li, Natalya, and Shayna. And Shotzi's like, why is Raquel getting another chance when we keep getting overlooked and passed over? She goes to Xia and says, "You're undefeated. Why aren't you out there?" And Xia Li just walks out. And she goes, "Aaliyah, I don't like you, but you have the fastest win ever. Even you deserve a title shot." Aaliyah just walks out. And so she turns to Natalya and Shayna, says, "You both deserve title opportunities too. We're the best in the world, and letting another opportunity pass them by." Go to commercial. We come back and we get a Nakamura and Riddle interview, and that's when Riddle says, "Yeah, Orton had said, hey, this was Orton's idea for me to team up with Nakamura." And then Nakamura goes, "Yeah, Riddle is no Boogs," and then Riddle says, "Yeah, Nakamura is no Randy, but we still have the potential for greatness."
Yeah.
So it doesn't really seem like this team is going to be lasted very long.
It doesn't really feel that way.
No.
Hey, but I don't know if they'll do it because they're both faces, but a match with Riddle against Nakamura would be pretty stellar.
Great.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
And I like this. I like the Shotzi bit. So after that, we had Raquel Rodriguez. What was supposed to be Raquel Rodriguez versus Ronda Rousey. We had Natalya, Shayna, and Shotzi leave the locker room, but the door locks behind Natty and Shayna, and Shotzi's stuck in there, and then outside the locker room, Aaliyah's holding the key. So the shoes on the other foot, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose because Raquel and Ronda are having their match. Natalya and Shayna attack. SmackDown rolls on. We get ourselves a tag team match. Natalya and Shayna versus Ronda and Raquel. But I kind of like it because like a lot of women were on screen this week. I like this role for Shotzi as sort of, would-be manipulator, trying to, get everybody against Raquel Rodriguez and her own motives are obviously in question here. And so we get that tag match, and Raquel hits a Texas bomb. Now they're calling it the Tejano bomb on Shayna to get the win here. So gone are the days. I guess it's taboo to say Chingona bomb. Apparently can't say that now. Texas bomb.
No.
Tejano
Texas bomb.
Yeah.
There was a good moment here between although brief, between Shayna and Ronda, where at one point Raquel shoves Shayna and she bumps into Ronda. They turn and kind of a stare down until Natalya pulls Ronda out of the ring, and that was right before Raquel hit her finish on Shayna. We have a New Day interview. They're asked who their partner is, and Kofi's like, "Does Netflix give away the ending to Stranger Things?" Makes a couple other analogies. Wood says everyone's been asking them to join them in their fight against the Brawling Brutes. He says we could talk about who our partner is, but the point is that anybody could be our partner. We have the element of surprise in our favor, and with their partner, they're going to go on to defeat the Brawling Brutes.
Yep. After that, we had Los Lothar. This was great. Shanky is fantastic, and I love when they do this. A little bit of character and personality to people. Los Lotharios versus Jinder Mahal and Shanky. So Jinder's music hits. They're like, where's Jinder? So Jinder's looking for Shanky backstage, and he hears his own music. He opens up the door, and Shanky is in there with a little boombox, and he's dancing to Jinder's music, which is a banger. And he's like, come on, man, it's time to get to the ring. Shanky loves to dance. So at one point during the match, Angel rips off his pants. He does that bit, and he dances for Samantha Irvin, the ring announcer.
Ring announcer, yeah. And she's
like kind of put off by it. She's like, yeah, that doesn't do much for me. And so Shanky starts dancing behind him, and then he bops Angel in the head, follows out with a super kick. Humberto then, Jinder is distracted by these Shanky shenanigans. Humberto hits a springboard kick on Jinder, gets the win, and then Jinder goes out there and he gives Shanky shit for dancing. Shanky says, enough. He turns to Samantha Irvin, smiles, and he starts dancing for her, and Pat McAfee's all about it. And she's like more receptive to that. She's like, "Ooh, yeah, this was hilarious stuff, right?"
It was pretty fun. It was fun. Then we get Max Dupree walking into Adam Pearce's office. He says, "Hey,
he's a close talker.
He is
Max
a close
Dupree.
talker. It's like Judge Reinhold on Seinfeld."
Yeah.
He says, "I hope you checked with W Legal, so that my modeling agency can start creating the next generation of WWE superstars." And Adam Pearce says, "Yes, I checked with them. Your contract is legal and binding. It's official, and I'm officially welcoming you to SmackDown." And Dupree says, "Yes, the recruitment process begins. And sorry, Adam Pearce, you don't make the cut."
Not shocking. Pearce is kind of older. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
But you know, I understand that the modeling business is for the youthful, you know.
Yeah.
Pierce is not that. So sorry, Pierce. What a burn. Like, did he have to tell him that? Had Pierce applied to be part of the maximum male agency?
Adam Pearce submit a headshot?
Right, like an 8x10. He's like, man, this is from 2000. What are you doing?
Portfolio of some sort.
You don't really look like this anymore, Adam.
Yeah.
Although he kind of does look the same, to be honest. These two had a match back in 2011. Max Dupree and Adam Pearce.
Wow.
Back when Max Dupree was Sean whatever.
Yeah. His shoot name.
Yeah, I think so. Next up we had the Kevin Owens show with Sami Zayn. So he says, so he's on SmackDown for this episode. You know, brand split is whatever. So he's there doing his show. He's like, I'm here on SmackDown from Raw to find the truth, and I'm dealing with a disgusting liar by the name of Elias. And at Hell in a Cell and make him regret him showing his beardless face in the WWE. He says, so here's my buddy Sami Zayn. Sami gets to the ring. They have a big old hug. They're catching up. Sami says, I know there was some bad blood last time we were together. And Kevin Owens says, I don't even remember what that was about. And Sami says, you've been doing great work. Or Kevin Owens says, you've been doing great work, Sami, here as locker room leader. And Sami says, oh, you've been doing great work on Raw as well. He's like, Elias and Ezekiel, clearly they're the same person. And Kevin Owens, he just looks at him, the most sincere look, and he just hugs him with the most warmth because finally his best friend, the only person in the world who will acknowledge and believe him that they are the same person. So Sami's like, are you crying? And Kevin Owens is like, no. It's nice to hear you say that, though. He's like, you always have my back, just like I've always had yours. And Kevin Owens, he says, hey, you got to drop all this stuff here on SmackDown. I need you to come to Raw with me and call out all the liars in the locker room. Sami's like, I've always had your back, but now it's not a good time. The locker room needs me. The bloodline needs me. It's just not a good time, Moose. Kevin Owens is like, did you just call me Oos? And he's like, oh man, I'm sorry. I've been hanging out with the bloodline so much. They're just we're rubbing off on each other. And Kevin Owens says, Sami, you're not in the bloodline, man. You come out here wearing your shirt and you're praising them. It kind of makes you look like a moron. And Sami says, oh, I was just being nice earlier when I said that Elias and Ezekiel are the same person. You're clearly two different people. So who's the moron now? They start calling each other liar and moron, liar and moron. And so they go on and on. Kevin Owens tells Sami to snap out of it. He says, if you're so tight with the bloodline, why did they ditch you on Raw? If you're so tight with them, if I called them out now, they wouldn't leave you high and dry. So he introduces the bloodline. And he says, see, they couldn't care less about you. And Sami says, whatever, because they don't come out. He says, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. He leaves. Kevin Owens follows. He says, forget about this stuff. Just come to Raw with me. Sami pushes him. He says, go to Raw and you stay there. And then a couple of PAs come in and start, they're indie talent, but they look like WWE production assistants. Yeah. Start tearing down the Kevin Owens show set. So, of course, Kevin Owens gets hurt about that, gets in there and gives them both stunners.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we had Ricochet and Drew Gulak taking on Walter and Marcel Bartel. We mentioned this at the beginning or during the SmackDown, kind of talking about it in a nutshell, the highlights, if you will. Bartel getting the win. I mean, down the stretch at the end, Walter only stepped in the ring to distract Ricochet briefly.
Yep.
And Bartel picked up the win, hit a suplex on Gulak, followed with a PK kick. After the match, Ricochet gets in the ring to check on Gulak. Walter boots Ricochet out of the ring and then tells Bartel to kick Gulak again, and he does.
Yep. After that, Sami Zayn is talking to the Usos backstage. He's like, I feel like I'm not getting respect from you guys. What is it? What is it you guys want from me? He says, what if I joined the bloodline? And they're like, what? He's like, no, I know you're not. I know I'm not your family. I know I'm not actual blood, but like, an affiliate, like an honorary member. And Jimmy's like, okay, yeah, sure. Why not? Honorary Us. And Sammy's like, yes. He's like, if you need it, you need anything, I've got it. He says, and Jimmy says, yeah, you know what? You don't even need to say it. And so they go into their room, and he's very excited.
He is very excited. Then we have our main event, Brawling Brutes versus New Day and Mystery Partner. So before New Day and Mystery Partner come to the ring, Sheamus has a promo. Says, essentially doesn't matter who their partner is. We're still going to win. So Woods and Kofi come out, and then Woods asks Brawling Brutes if there's some kind of off-brand wrestling buddies. They say Sheamus is right about one thing. Tonight is fight night, but it's not going to be 2 versus 3. It's actually going to be an unfair fight because of their partner, and they introduce Drew McIntyre, pretty much who we thought it was going to be. In the end, Drew gets the win for the Drew Day. Oh, sorry, no, Xavier Woods does. Sorry. So Drew hits, Ridge is looking for a power slam. Drew escapes, hits a headbutt. Claymore tags in Woods. Xavier hits that awesome top rope elbow on Ridge Holland to get the win.
Yep. Yeah, Pat with the with all the puns there too. The Drew Day, Big D instead of Big E. Yeah, it was good stuff. I wish his kilt was teal and pink, the New Day colors.
Yeah.
We also had a Rampage. It's going to be a little weird because it's the go home to
talking about speed run. We'll really speed
nothing.
Run.
Yeah. So we had Bryan Danielson.
It was a really good hour of wrestling television though.
Yeah, no, it was good. Trying to remember what happened here. Oh yeah, we saw the debut of that awesome custom TNT title, that Laker title.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Ooh, beautiful. Boy.
Beautiful.
That is oh yeah, this had the Statlander Ruby match. That was a
really good match. Danielson versus Seidel was awesome.
That was a great match. Yeah. So Danielson gets the guillotine. It's knee plus, bunch of elbows, locks on the guillotine to get the win over Seidel. There we had a Hookhausen video package. This was fun. So the Young Bucks came out cosplaying as the Hardys, and they have Gangrel with them, who hasn't aged a day. He looks the exact. He looked. I made this joke on the True Heel Heat podcast. He looked 55 back in 1999. He looks 55 now, Larson. They took on Taylor Rust, formerly of the Diamond Mine.
Yeah.
And John Cruz.
Yeah. Young Bucks are just doing all sorts of Hardy moves. They win with a twist of fate. Swanton. Then they lay out Gangrel after the match, set him up for a BTE trigger. Hardys come out to make the save. They're about to hit the Young Bucks with a twist of fate. Cutler makes the save there. He ends up eating a DDT from Gangrel. Twist of fate, Swanton.
Yep. Let's see here. We had, excuse me, Darby Allin promo after that, where he blames Kyle for taking out Sting, Kyle O'Reilly, and he challenges to a match at Double or Nothing. We already talked about that match. Then we had Dante Martin versus Max Caster. Dante Martin picked up the ring here. But, of course, the highlight was all the acclaimed ass boy stuff before the bell. It always makes me laugh. This is like the second time with these guys. So they give Bowens the mic, because he's, of course, in the wheelchair, and he starts doing his shtick. And in the middle of his shtick, you don't see what happens because it's off screen, but Bowens says, "Oh my God!" And then they cut, and Dante Martin's done like a tope over onto everybody there.
It was great.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what to think of this pairing of Gun Club and the Acclaim, but so far it's been great.
Everybody's getting the best out of everybody.
Yeah.
Billy Gunn loving the Acclaimed and hating his own sons is hilarious. They're really knocking this one out of the park.
They are. Yeah, you mentioned that Dante got the win with the nosedive. We got a Samoa Joe, Adam Cole Bebe video package hyping up their Owen Hart tournament final bout. Then we get the segment where Scorpio Sky receives his new custom TNT title and is absolutely amazing. So then we go to the Tron. Sammy Guevara. Ty Conti and Frankie Kazarian barge into the America Top Team gym, and Kazarian's about to smash a trophy case, one the TNT titles in. And Sammy says, no. Let's go over here. He wants the BMF title instead, so they smash up that case. They each take a belt from there and then challenge America Top Team to a match at Double or Nothing. Scorpio Sky says, it's gone on too long. If you want the mixed trios match, you got it. But when we win, neither Sammy nor Frankie can challenge for the TNT title again.
I wonder if Frankie saw this interview. Because, like,
I mean, I think so, because he was the only one acting with any sense of urgency during their match at Double or Nothing.
No, I like when it happened. Like, did he have a chance, or when he got to like Vegas and went to the venue and they're like, okay, so yeah, remember, if you guys lose, no more TNT. What? I don't even want to pair with these guys. Now you're telling me that this is on the line? He should not have agreed to that match, dude.
No, you shouldn't agree to it. No, not at all. Not at all.
We had Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander doing their pre-match interview. Ruby says, I've been doubting myself, losing the confidence I had when I came to AEW. I need this. It's going to be a turning point in my career, even if I have to beat my friend Chris Statlander. And Statlander's having none of it. She's like, yeah, everybody needs to win this tournament. Said, well, you need to understand, Ruby. Said, I've been here since the beginning, and what have I got to show for it? No title, that's for sure. Having a blown-out knee, being the backup plan for this tournament, all my friends turning on me. So what you need to understand is I'm not letting this opportunity slip away from me like I let every other one go. Nothing can stop me. This was a hell of a promo, and it got this crowd fired up. And they were booing the finish when Ruby actually won. There was a sequence here when it looked like Statlander had this win, and it was like 2.99999.
Yeah.
And that crowd was not happy because Ruby ends up getting the win with the roll-up here. And then gets on the mic, and she has to, like, quiet the crowd a couple times because they're booing. They're like, okay, I get it. I know. And Britt comes out, and Ruby's supposed to cut a promo on her, and she's like, okay, guys, I get it. I know. You would rather have the other person win. Britt, you're next. Shut up, everybody. You're supposed to be cheering me right now.
Yeah, I know.
Didn't quite work out that way. Odd little bit of sort of misreading a particular room. I mean, this is the kind of thing, man. We texted about this a little bit. We talked about it a little bit. You know, when you sign somebody and people are very excited about it, you got to feature them. Because otherwise you're going to have a situation like this with Statlander, who everybody has loved from day one and has always, just like she said in her promo, legitimately been given kind of the short shrift. You know, when she came back from injury that time, huge pop. People want, and she's one of their best wrestlers.
Yeah.
And she's never really featured. And it's a bummer. And I think it's sort of reached a head where it's like, man, we like Ruby, but Chris has been here from day one. And she is on par in terms of the wrestling with Ruby. And Ruby's she's not featured enough for us to really care much more than, oh, cool, it's Ruby. With Chris, it's like, man, we know you've given everything you've had. We want to see her move on and move up, rather. And so it all sort of came to a head towards the finish of this match.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if it affected the outcome of the match at Double or Nothing. You know, I would suspect that they had Britt kind of penciled in to win regardless. But if
that was permanent marker, man.
Yeah,
that was permanent marker.
Yeah. But if Ruby's reaction after her win in any way changed, not necessarily what happened at Double or Nothing, but what they might have in store for Ruby going forward, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You would like to think that maybe. It's like maybe he couldn't get out of it in the moment, but maybe it would be cause for, Tony to look at this and say, okay, well, I need to change up things, maybe how I do. I mean, honestly, he just needs to feature more women on cable TV. Yep. Otherwise, this kind of thing's going to happen all the time. You're going to get fans who are resentful that certain people like Statlander are not featured more, who really have been waiting for a long time for a bigger opportunity. And you're going to have situations like Ruby Soho where you're paying a bunch of money to bring somebody in who's been released from WWE, and then you don't feature him, and the crowd doesn't care about the person anymore. So, yeah.
Yep. We got a Raw tonight. There's actually preview. Wow. Substantial preview.
Wow.
First up here says Bobby Lashley, Amos, and MVP signed the contract for their 2-on-1 handicap match at Hell in a Cell.
More just talking, dude. More just talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully there won't be any talking in this segment. It'll just be like, they'll wreck the table and
they'll
beat each other up. Yeah, exactly.
Quick signature and then just start wrecking stuff.
Then destruction happens. Yeah. We got Shinsuke Nakamura and Riddle to battle the Usos in a championship contenders match.
Well, I guess they have to win the championship contenders match because that's the only way apparently you can get a title shot anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to beat the champions.
Beat the champions to get a chance to beat the champions.
Yeah, exactly. Bianca Belair and Asuka are going to have a match apparently ahead of their triple threat. That's going to be good. And Becky
odds of a clean finish there.
Minimal. Becky's going to wonk that finish.
Oh, yes.
Bianca's probably going to get kicked in the head again. She's going to catch a straight kick to the head.
Yeah.
And then Cody Rhodes is set to respond to Seth freaking Rollins' latest attack. Lots of talking on the schedule for Raw tonight.
3 hours to fill.
You got 3 hours, man. Well, we got some questions here from our Twitter thread at Real Going in Raw every Monday. If you want to ask a question for us for our Friday show, well, this Friday that's not going to be the case because I got a graduation to go to, so we're going to probably replace it with a count out. But usually. That's why you sub to the YouTube so that you'll see the notification for the questions thread on the community tab.
Yeah.
White Brownie says, with Punk now AEW champion, where does he rank in comparison to other current champions? So he's no tribal chief.
No Okada.
I'd put him on maybe Okada tier. I like Punk. I think he's great.
I think Punk's a quality champion.
He's better than Josh Alexander. I like Josh Alexander.
Yeah.
He's
Punk hasn't beat in name recognition alone. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. He might be. Honestly, Punk might be number one in name recognition.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll go look at Google Trends and see where Punk how Punk measures up.
Let's get a Q Scores account.
There we go. Anthony Tobias with Roosh now in AEW. Who would you like to see come to AEW from either CMLL or AAA?
Chessman and Sting team up.
That'd be good.
That's what I want to see.
Of course, Dr. Wagner Jr. Lord Ziffer, the TNT title is now gone. At least 2 pay-per-views without being defended on. Book a banger TNT title match for All Out. Scorpio Sky versus.
Well, make it a ladder match. And you put Starks. Put Dante Martin back in there.
Swerve.
Where has Lee Moriarty been?
I don't know. I just thought about that this morning too.
Put him in that match. Yeah, Swerve. That's good. And then Jeff Hardy.
I feel like they could really do a good match, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. That's where this is going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's like a year from now. AEW, they can spin some wheels. They can spin some wheels. Look at Julia Hart. They can spin some wheels over there. Let's see here. Greg Morris says, when you wanted Orange Cassidy to win the title during last year's 3-way at Double or Nothing, could Eddie Kingston win the title at a Dynamite a la Foley on Raw? He holds it for a few weeks and it gives fans a big memorable moment. I think, and you know what, man, in a couple of years when AEW is super established, I think it'd be fun for them to do some Attitude Era booking with their title. I mean, ideally sooner than that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he wants to get some good reigns established first, and then, do some of that shit.
Yeah, who knows? Man from out west, with what is happened with MJF, do you think this cancels all chances of him taking the title off Punk? No, if MJF and Tony Khan can work things out, I don't think it's going to preclude MJF from winning the title. It just depends on what kind of agreement they can reach, if any, and what MJF's short-term future with AEW looks like.
I'll put it this way. I feel like if we see MJF in AEW again, it will mean that they will have sorted out whatever these issues are, and both sides will be happy with the agreement they come to. And if that's the case, then I fully expect him to be world champion. Absolutely. Now, if that agreement remains he's a free agent in 2024. Tony Khan has to give that a second thought. Because do you want to put a title on the guy that's going to be that could potentially be leaving for another company?
I mean, I guess the counter to that would be you put the title at MJF still because you have planned to build up somebody to take the title off MJF. That for example, Wardlow. That the payoff to that story would be worth giving the MJF the title.
That could
depends. It depends on what plan he may have during and after MJF's reign. Cameron Bortolazzo with Athena. Well, sorry. Will Athena be the first person to beat Jade?
If they treat Athena the same way they treated Ruby Soho, no. It sort of remains to be seen how they're going to approach Athena's creative and how much shine they're going to give her.
I will say they should take their time building to their one-on-one match. I mean, it seems obvious we're going to get a 6-woman tag match here very soon between Jade, Kira, and Red Velvet taking on Statlander, Athena, and Anna Jay.
Yeah, that match is going to happen on Rampage, and then the singles match is going to happen the following week on Rampage.
I know, that's probably what's going to happen. But they should take the time.
Yeah, I agree. Athena should be a big deal. She is probably at this point, she's probably one of the top 5 wrestlers on the entire roster.
Oh, absolutely. She's phenomenal.
She's absolutely phenomenal. She really is.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Let's see here. Okay, power rank. Hart asks us to power rank these AEW 5 versus 5 gimmick matches. Stadium Stampede 2020, which was Elite versus Inner Circle. Stadium Stampede 2021, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle. Blood and Guts, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle. Anarchy in the Arena. I'll be honest with you, Anarchy in the Arena would be my number 1. Blood and Guts would probably be my number 4. It'd be my last one.
Yeah, I think I might put the first Stadium Stampede at number 1 on my list because that match was tons of fun.
That had Hangman on the horse, right?
Yeah, and that finish was crazy. Kenny hitting the One-Winged Angel off that camera platform on Sammy.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was nuts.
So
I might have that one, then Anarchy in the Arena, the second Stadium Stampede, and then Blood and Guts after that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Toby asked, do you think Tony should start these big shows earlier given worldwide viewership? Yeah, I would be happy with that. And we're on the West Coast, so we get the earliest feed. Yeah, I would be happy with that.
Yeah, they should start it. The main card should start at 4. At the latest. Come Tuesday. Why isn't Shotgun Saturday Night on Peacock? I have no idea.
Man, the list. So I did a Wrestle Juice video on this recently about shit that's still missing. So many of the hidden gems never made it to Peacock. A lot of stuff did not make it to Peacock.
Wow.
And the bottom line is they just stopped worrying about adding content because they got what they wanted, the pay-per-views. That's why the infrastructure, the user interface just sucks. You have to figure out what season, if it's I want to watch Raw from 2004. Well, now you got to do some math to figure out what season it was.
They didn't build a separate infrastructure for the wrestling content apart from, like The Office. I'm sure it makes sense to have it broke down to seasons in episodes because that's how TV is typically structured. Wrestling's different, though. It's not seasons of wrestling. Just on all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
We could end with this one. Mayor Planet Houston. What is your overall assessment of Hangman Page's title reign? I think I've been pretty clear that I've really enjoyed Hangman's story from the very beginning till the win and even thereafter. I know people have criticized it, and I think it's because he didn't have a whole lot of showy moments. A lot of his story wasn't about showy moments. It's about subtlety and nuance and character, as opposed to huge plot moments or plot twists. After he won the title, he just had a series of really good matches, some really incredible matches. And I think his story isn't over. We're in the middle of the story of him becoming, we talked about playing last night, him becoming more self-assured, more confident about who he is And when he finally reaches that moment, that's when he'll get the title back. And will kind of feel like the culmination of his early story arc in AEW. And this might even take another year or two to come, back to that. I think the character work that he's doing and the character work they're booking for him has been really good. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do next.
I feel like his title reign needed to feel like it had a bigger spotlight on it to give us a more clear sort of reason as to why he was wilting as champion. I feel like that spotlight, I feel like when he became champion, he was never sort of featured as so they started to tease, and this is another thing that's been kind of weird, is they were teasing when Kenny left Adam Cole and the Young Bucks and their issues. And that's been sort of put on the back burner, the whole Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, the Undisputed Era thing. And I feel like they had a really great opportunity, given the relationship between the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page, to tell a story that felt bigger and more compelling than when they eventually got around to Cole and Hangman. And I feel like that kind of spotlight, those kind of relationship issues, showing like leading to Hangman understanding, man, I am by myself. Like, I thought that the Bucks might have had my back after Kenny left, and then when they allowed Kenny to lose instead of interfering and they allowed me to pick up the win, I feel like there could have been a little bit more focus on getting Hangman to this point. And so I do think that it's one chapter in a much larger story. That being said, I do think that there were things about the title reign that could have been improved upon to more organically get us to the point where where we saw last night, where he was such a mess identity wise. So I think there could have been improvements to it.
One, not to say this would be for sure any aspect of kind of what you were talking about, but maybe as far as the Kenny Young Bucks aspect, they weren't expecting Kenny to be out for as long as he's.
That's entirely possible.
Maybe they had a timeline for that story, and then once they found out that Kenny's gonna be out for a lot longer, like, okay, well, maybe we'll push on that for now and come back around to it at some point.
Mm-hmm. That's entirely possible. I don't know. We might know at some point. It'd be interesting. We got to get one. I honestly feel no disrespect intended to anybody at all, but I honestly would love a lot more questions about creative to Tony Khan. And I feel like if you and I had the sack to go to one of those media scrums and stand up and ask him some of that stuff, I think we could get some really interesting answers. Because I am really curious about like how Tony views Hangman Page in terms of the overall story in AEW, because he is the soul of AEW, and I feel like his story is a very important one that Tony is telling. And I'm really curious to get his thoughts about that stuff, and not have to dig through a bunch of episodes of Busted Open because maybe he talks about that stuff there. I don't know. Anyways, that's going to do it for us, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Twitch chat, stick around. We'll answer some more of your questions, and then we'll do a raid. Later on tonight, I will be live at twitch.tv/MFSteve here, creating the new Steve W Arena. So be sure to follow over there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonator Phil McDonald, here to tell you to go support Going In Raw and Friendo Club at patreon.com/Steven Larson. They got bonus episodes, ad-free audio, a weekly newsletter rounding up the week in wrestling news, and a bunch more. Patreon.com/Steven Larson. Go support or get hit with a stunner.